Welcome to the Digital Pathfinders, where we guide professionals through career transitions, content creation, and building new income streams online. I'm your co host, Danny, joined by your co host, Antonio. How's it going, Antonio?
Danny, great to be back. We're here doing episode 2 of the Digital Pathfinders. If you can believe that already into episode 2. Today, we're going to be talking all things LinkedIn. So, Danny, why don't you kick things off with our discussion today?
Yeah, so I think that LinkedIn is one of those platforms that people might not even consider, aside from posting your resume, maybe looking for work. A lot of people don't even understand that this is a full blown social media platform that you could leverage, especially as a professional. I think that it's super important to realize that there's a ton of opportunities there.
Yes, in fact, LinkedIn, although it's been around for a number of years, it's really in a way playing catch up to a lot of the other platforms that have been very frequently used as of late, like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, etc. And what's great about LinkedIn is that it's a great arena, especially for professionals now, to get in the game when it comes to content. LinkedIn, based on my reading, has about 1 billion users. I don't recall the exact number of active users, but I can say that most users don't post at all. So if you're one of the users who starts posting, albeit once a week, you already rise to the very top of the content creators on the platform. I feel that the platform is starved for content. So by taking an active approach, by sharing an article, writing a little blurb, sharing your expertise, you can by default become a LinkedIn creator and really pivot yourself to become an expert on the platform.
I think that LinkedIn, just looking at the numbers, has about a billion people on there. I think that a lot of the people on there aren't creating anything. They're not posting anything. They aren't really focused on the right connections. Less than 1% of people are actually posting on LinkedIn on a regular basis. And the people that are on there are generally decision makers and high income earners that are on there on a daily basis, mostly Monday through Friday. But I think there's a ton of opportunity there to be had, to be noticed by the right people, and to really grow your career and potentially have multiple income streams coming on there. I know that you make most of your income online, Antonio. What's your experience been on there as far as making the right connections?
Yes, I can tell you that one of my best clients who I produce content for their YouTube channel actually found me as a result of posting a prior podcast that I co hosted with my brother. So, uploading hot takes, these short form videos to LinkedIn. Again, going back to this notion that the platform is somewhat starved for good video content. When you put content out there, you get pushed to the top because the algorithm is saying, hey, this is an engaging piece of content. Going back to what we discussed last week about this TikTokification of organic content, meaning that if it's engaging, if it's relatable, and people are viewing it and liking it, it's going to get pushed out to multiple viewers. And so just by doing that, I was able to land a client who I've been working for since March of this year, and it's been a fantastic experience. I started with doing long form content. So, my very first endeavor into doing long form videos for their YouTube channel. In the past 2 or 3 months, I've been doing shorts for their Instagram channel primarily. So, it's been a fantastic opportunity. And this all began as a result of posting short form content, podcast format on the platform.
You know what's funny is that talking about the TikTokification, right? I think TikTok is one of those fun platforms. It's really great to be on there and entertaining. So TikTok hit, right? And they have a different type of algorithm at the time than everybody else. This was really not based on the people that were following you getting content on your feed, but this was more about what you were into. So if you were into traveling, then your feed got filled up with traveling, right? LinkedIn is not that. LinkedIn is not that, right? I think that LinkedIn is really funny because all the people that are out there that know social media, that know content creation, that know about grabbing people's attention in an impactful way, they're hammering away at LinkedIn. And it seems like nobody's listening. Nobody's listening out there. I Myself included. I had a LinkedIn account for years, and I never really considered it a social media platform. I never really considered it as some place that I could network. I never used it to seek out people that I wanted to make connections with. Lately, what I've been doing is I've been looking companies up that I would be interested in connecting with, maybe interested in doing work for, and then just following everybody there. And to my surprise, some of the decision makers, some of the people in upper management, even the C-suite type people on that company, they've been answering my chats. And on LinkedIn, I think that you get a ton of information there. I hope that we can help people leverage that, and I hope that me and you can continue to leverage the platform in order to kind of grow from there. I look at your LinkedIn, Antonio, and it is pretty sharp. It's pretty spot on. I'm not really sure what people can do that is simple in order to catch people's attention. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think LinkedIn, the taboo has been removed. Now it can be considered a full blown social media platform, very much likened to the YouTube and the Instagram and even TikTok to a certain degree. I see people posting a lot of photos about their day to day existence, whether it's at the gym, whether it's just sort of behind the scenes, things that aren't even work related. One of the Nas Academy instructors, he basically posts a lot of his life just around the apartment, brainstorming different ways to engage with his audience. I found that very unique and very interesting. So I think to answer your question about the type of content people can post, you really have to look at what is your overall goal with LinkedIn? Are you trying to build a personal brand? Are you trying to generate leads with your content? Or are you there really as a hobbyist, just trying to put out content and share with the world what you're looking to do? And what I'm learning about, particularly with LinkedIn, is that it's a platform, to your earlier comment, Danny, about the big wigs being there, talking about CEOs, founders, individual business owners, people that have money to spend, particularly if you can provide a solution to their problem. So that's really the power of LinkedIn. The value of a TikTok follower is pretty nil in comparison when you look at the value of a CEO, of a founder following your content, and you can sort of dive into their DMs and have a conversation. You're much more likely to generate business opportunities with the CEO than a TikToker who's got 100,000 followers only. So that's kind of my initial observation with LinkedIn.
Yeah. One of the pieces of content that I put on LinkedIn that got a lot of attention was a picture of me with my daughter. And on the description of it, I just talked about how the work life balance that I'm seeking is more important to me than a lot of the other benefits that I would get from working a regular 9 to 5 job. I think that as I've been doing a lot of gig work, as I've been freelancing now, that's one of the things that I really appreciate, right? So I get to hang out with my daughter during school hours on Monday because I go out there and I meet with her and I hang out with her class during lunchtime. She's going on a field trip on Thursday, and I'm going to be one of the parents chaperoning the whole field trip. I'm pretty excited about that. And so I wrote about that flexibility and I got a ton of engagement on there. And it was surprising to me that it was something a little bit more personal that I was talking about, not so much like career, within that box of career, like, hey, this is what I do, or, so it was rather simple for me to, post up a picture, put on a description and be a little bit more personal. I think that as I grow my personal brand, that is one of the things that I'm going to focus in a lot because I can talk about business. I can talk about project management. I could talk about all these things, but in the end of it all, right? People want to connect with me. I need to catch people's attention, and I need to really create some type of value that they're going to want to look at the content that I'm putting out there. So I want to encourage people out there to kind of take that approach of building your personal brand out there. If you're somebody that's working at a job, you don't necessarily have to leave your job in order to make connections or even do some side work that is significantly able to increase your income. LinkedIn is kind of the gateway to that. Some people, we always talk about Courtney Johnson. She's on there, and sometimes the stuff that she's putting on LinkedIn and other platforms is raw, right? Like she's hanging out with her phone in her living room. Sometimes you could tell that a thought popped into her head and she just started recording, and her personal brand is very, very raw, right? And You don't have to be polished to put content out there that is going to be impactful and create connections that are pretty significant.
Yeah, so you really talked about a couple of things I wanted to mention is that first of all, the notion of this taboo being removed. Your story about posting a picture with your daughter reminds me of a recent post I saw by Carlos Gill, a social media guru in his own right, that he was on a recent international trip with his wife, and he was talking about the benefit of traveling with your wife on a business trip because it allows you to sort of entertain one another and share memories together as opposed to just being by yourself in a fantastic city like Paris, for example, but eating alone at a restaurant. So that kind of post, not only to your point, does it really increase the level of engagement because it's very relatable, people understand it, but it showcases that that kind of content is now allowed and even highly favorable to see on LinkedIn, right? And so I think that level of engagement is really what we're seeing on LinkedIn to draw people into your feed. And I think the other piece that I wanted to mention is it's about building a connection with your audience. As I become more and more active on LinkedIn, I'm constantly getting peppered with the DMs, the cold DMs, where people will be like, follow you first, and then they'll send you a connection request. And then once you accept the connection request, it's like, boom, straight for the jugular. This is what I'm selling you. Are you interested? It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't know you at all. Why would I be interested in buying from you? It's like, let's have a conversation first. So that's why I'm really drawn to this individual we were chatting about before we started recording. His name, and I'll probably butcher his last name, but it's Matthew Lakajev. And he basically talked about this notion of establishing rapport with people, having a conversation in the DMs that allows you to kind of really build a relationship, and that the amount of time it takes to be able to sell to that person can take a long time. So really take the long view when it comes to building that relationship. There's nothing more off-putting to me personally when the person I don't even know has never even viewed my content. They'll take a quick glance at my experience, think, oh, I see you founded this agency. That's fantastic. Let's connect. I'm like, okay, great, let's connect. And all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, well, I have this software service that can help generate leads for you. And it's like, is that really my problem? Is that what I want to address with you? Let's get into conversation first. So that's really one of the pieces of feedback that I wanted to share today. And it harkens back to Gary Vee's book called The Thank You Economy. And I think that's really a fantastic way to build a relationship that's very easy to do on LinkedIn if done correctly.
The Thank You Economy, I think I'll check that out. I'll go ahead and start reading that because I really enjoy Gary Vee. Two things that I was thinking about as you were talking, right? The first one is that I don't buy from companies mostly. When I refinance my house, I didn't look at a name brand. I didn't look at, a brokerage name, but I go, oh, I know this guy, right? I like this guy. I really enjoy, hanging out with him, and that's who I did my business with, right? And that was, you spend thousands of dollars refinancing your house, you spend thousands of dollars buying a home, and I think it's the same thing with LinkedIn. Maybe cold emailing or DMing people just a generic message. Hey, so I have this AI service that will drive leads to you, right? And I get a ton of those. I get a ton of those, and they're not very well crafted to me personally. And a lot of the times, what ends up happening is I'll engage with as many people as possible. So I'll go, hey, I looked at your things. I would love to have a conversation. My budget right now is, set for the next quarter. But, I looked at your LinkedIn profile, these things caught my attention. Then I send it out and a lot of the times it's crickets. And then the people that do respond, uh, don't really respond in a way that they want to network. They're like, okay, yeah, well, if you ever come up with the opportunity to check me out, want to spend some money, then get a hold of me. That kind of thing. I think that the most impactful connections that I've made over there. They just have a conversation. They're not really trying to sell me anything. They're interested in the content that I'm putting. They're interested in what I do, and I show the same interest to them, and we have conversations that are pretty meaningful. And then there's people out there that have massive following. Jeremiah, right? Every time that I comment on him, he sends back a comment or even a DM that is very, very specific to me. Like he's not using templates. He's communicating off the cuff, and it comes across that way. I feel that connection because I've taken some of the instruction that he has and applied it, and it's been very, very good in LinkedIn and on other platforms as well. So I think that a lot of people miss that opportunity to connect in a meaningful way, right? Jab, 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 left hook, right? I think that we should have a ton of information out there about ourselves, right? But as we're making connections, I don't think that it is very effective to the first thing that you do is ask for money. The other thing that I was thinking about as you were talking about being international and hanging out with your family, like I've done a ton of traveling by myself and with my family as well, and I really, really enjoy traveling. It's probably my favorite thing to do. I always say that one of my favorite possessions is my passport. One, I don't think that enough people travel. I don't think enough people go outside of their comfort zone and really explore what's out there. And the other thing is that as I've worked, I've gotten to travel to a bunch of places without my family. And yeah, I'm hanging out in such cool places that would be really, really great to have those experiences shared with my wife, with my daughter. And I think that this platform of work, this new way to really increase people's income stream, brings up a ton of opportunities to be able to earn income, but still be present as a family man, as somebody that goes beyond work, right? And I think that there's a ton of opportunity there for people that want to create. A personal brand on LinkedIn or want to expand their personal brand or their business brand, right? In order for them to have the flexibility, be able to travel, be able to make money while traveling, and also have that work-life balance as they do it. You know
So that's
how
really one of
great
the
it.
goals, right, of this podcast, is to sort of showcase and share the skills that can allow you to develop yourself to become a remote worker. Now, granted, a lot of people say, well, post COVID, things are starting to go back to normal. But I truly believe that there's a way to make money online, whether that's going through the process of being a solopreneur, being an individual that just works as a freelancer or works for him or herself online. I recently accepted a position with Nas Company as a creative producer, and that's 100% remote. And it was very important to me from the onset to be very open and say, hey, well, does it matter where I work from? And so you do choose a home country, but as long as you get your work done, they really don't care where you're working. I think one of the bigger challenges there is really finding a time in which you can sort of engage and collaborate with your fellow coworkers. So my direct supervisor, she's based in Singapore, which is 13 hours ahead, which makes it a bit challenging. That being said, though, it's a great opportunity to do remote based work, which to your point then allows and facilitates the ability to travel to other destinations and taking your spouse, taking your partner, whoever it is you want to bring along on your trip. That's what we're focused on with this particular podcast, is to show you that it's truly possible to do it, but you kind of have to hit pause and just challenge your own mindset that doing a traditional 9 to 5 is the only way to make money.
No, and I see your twin brother Rico recently visited you in Colombia, and you guys are hanging out over there. And while you're having fun, you sat down and did a podcast with him, and I thought the podcast was great. But also, like, it like warms my heart that like you guys are hanging out in a different country because your path started here in the United States, and I think a lot of people that might be watching the podcast is would appreciate being able to move away from what they're comfortable with. I wanted to ask you something real quick. I was thinking about it as you were talking about this client that you picked up in March. What was the path to that? How did you get noticed? What are the steps that you took? If I'm a new person to LinkedIn, right, and I've never really thought about leveraging LinkedIn to grow my income, what are the first steps, and then how do I build momentum on the platform?
Well, one of the benefits of LinkedIn, despite having been around for probably over 20 years at this point, is that the way the algorithm works is if you like people's content, your followers will start seeing what you like. And so that basically has like the snowball effect of what's being shown, not only in your feed, but in your followers' feed. So to answer your question more specifically, I think just by putting content out there, using the right descriptive kind of text, caption, copy, associated with the video, again, being a platform that's somewhat starved for good content, it gets pushed out to a wide variety of people. And you'll be surprised that, well, actually, one of the benefits of being a LinkedIn premium member is you can see who's viewed your profile, and not only who's viewed your profile, but how they came across your profile. Meaning, was it through a connection or did they seek you out via search terms? So that's one of the key benefits I would recommend if you can afford it, is to become a LinkedIn premium member. There's a lot of bells and whistles. We can get into those as well, but being active posting. And I remember being a former corporate executive and watching others in my space in the pharmaceutical industry posting content online, and I never really felt motivated to post about pharmaceutical based content. And now I have like a plethora of things to share. So I think when we're talking to people that don't know what to post, it really comes down to posting what you know and what you like. So, for example, if you are happy in your job but you want to continue to grow, share your expertise. Share what it means to do an account reconciliation. What software are you doing? How are you doing it specifically? What's a real estate person? What kind of things can they share about their day to day existence? I remember watching a reel from your client, Gabriel, talking about, well, are you going to the office just to kind of shoot the breeze? Are you there hitting the phones trying to drum up new business? Right. So there's a wide variety of angles you can take with your content, but ultimately it comes down to pressing send, hitting publish, whether it's text, whether it's photos, or whether it's videos. You can do a mix of all of those. And that's really my key piece of advice, is just put out there to the world what you want to share, and you'd be very surprised with what you get back.
How much is that premium membership for LinkedIn?
I think they have a scaled pricing model, to be perfectly honest. I've been a LinkedIn premium member for a number of years, and now that I'm physically based in Colombia, I feel like I get a discounted rate. My brother was telling me that what he pays was higher being based in the US versus what I pay here. So I don't want to quote prices, look into it, but it's certainly not cheap. I mean, it depends on what's defined as cheap, but of all of the premium models out there, I feel like LinkedIn is well worth it versus getting the blue check on either Twitter X or Instagram, which I don't have, for example, but I do feel very much obliged and very happy to be a LinkedIn premium member for the cost.
Do you know how much people based in the US are paying as opposed to how much people are paying in Colombia?
I really don't know the exact pricing, but let's just take a quick look.
No, and I'm asking because I'm like, maybe I could use a VPN to get a discount, a virtual private network. Virtual private network, for those people that are out there watching and might not be familiar with it. So you can get an app on your phone or on your computer. You can use a service that you're that it'll show wherever whatever LinkedIn per se, that it'll show LinkedIn that rather than being here in California, I am anywhere in the world, and you could pick Thailand, Singapore, Argentina, and when your IPN address shows up on the other end, you might get the discount from Colombia. Keep
Yeah,
that
I
in
just did
mind.
a quick search. It looks like it's $30 a month if you go month to month, $20 a month if you buy an annual plan. I'm not sure that's the US based price, and don't quote me on this if there are differences. My membership is due again, I think, in February of next year, so I'll wait until then to give you the exact price. Point being, though, 20 to 30 bucks is probably the range of paying for LinkedIn, which is more than paying for a premium account on Twitter X. So, you have to really kind of look at what's important to you. But again, if you're a professional looking at a career transition, looking at personal branding, I would strongly recommend that you consider becoming a LinkedIn premium member, because in addition to see who's viewed your profile, you can also send in mails, basically sending direct messages to people that you're not connected with. For example, there's a limit per month, but the notion here is that you get a lot of direct benefits that you can clearly see and experiment versus getting a blue check on Instagram where you probably get more reach with your post, but what other tangible aspects are you really receiving for that?
Yeah, yeah. And we're talking a lot about LinkedIn, right? And it might be a lot for somebody that is just starting out on LinkedIn or really is beginning to understand that LinkedIn is a social media platform. So, if you're in that position, get a hold of us, and we can really like point you in the right direction. There's a ton of information on Fiverr that you can go into and have people do your banner and kind of optimize your LinkedIn profile. But there's a ton of information that Antonio and I have. You can reach out to us directly. I know that we're pretty active on not just LinkedIn but social media in general. So if you wanted us to if you wanted to pick at our brain, we're available for that. And then also, if you wanted to create content and don't know where to start, you can get a hold of us as well. And we have several services that we can really provide to you. Um, uh, that'll help you do that. That'll help you do that. That's what we're doing here in this podcast is really creating content, both long format for YouTube, Spotify, but also short format that catches people's attention on LinkedIn, on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. All these platforms are great for getting people's attention, but I think none of them really stand up to LinkedIn as far as how much time and effort and even money that you spend getting people's attention. Because really, Gary Vee says it. That's the most important asset out there. That's really what us as professionals and business owners are trying to do is catch people's attention. Catch people's attention. If you're really good at catching people's attention on TikTok and Facebook, you can expand your personal brand, you can expand your business. But the amount of effort, the amount of time that you put into it, the amount of money that you're going to put into it is going to be exponentially higher than if you do it on LinkedIn.
One of the things you mentioned was the notion of optimizing your profile. So I wanted to kind of just break that down a little bit, giving some free value here. So if we look at just the different sections of your LinkedIn profile, for example, you have the banner image, which you want to look into the specifics from a pixel size, but you can literally go into Canva, choose a free template there, put in your name, put in your information, add a photo, add in a tagline, for example. Make sure you have a professional picture of yourself. It doesn't have to be a studio photo. With some of the AI tools, you can generate a professional LinkedIn profile by uploading a candid photo, but also your about section. So directly under your name, you have a certain number of characters there. So really tell people who visit your profile, what is it that you do? What do you offer? What do you want to be known for? And if you go into your about section, it gives you a bit more text, more space to get it into a bit more depth. So really take advantage of the free real estate before you get into your professional experience and educational experience. You have this featured section. So here, and this is something I learned from Courtney Johnson, this is where you want to share articles, maybe that you've written on a different website. Maybe you've been featured on a podcast. You can drop in the link to that particular podcast. Maybe you were a speaker at an event and there was a write up about the event, or you're featured in a picture. You can put in multiple featured images or links right at the top. So you can really have a virtual CV that is much more powerful than just a paper based CV. And then, of course, as you post, you'll see like your first or most active post first, and there's a section where you can go in and see all of your posts. So there's a lot of different ways you can leverage LinkedIn that many, I think, casual users are not even aware about, that you can do as a free user. This is not a result of being a LinkedIn premium member. So there's a lot of free real estate. And the idea here is to leverage as much as possible so you have a stellar presence and you're really viewed as an expert. People are like, wow, this guy really knows what he's talking about, or this woman really knows what she's talking about. And that's all a result of just spending some time on the platform and maximizing it to your benefit.
Two things that come to mind as you're talking about that. The first is that this is a social media platform, and people on social media aren't interested necessarily in you, but they're interested in what value you can create for them. So when you're writing your description, when you're putting your banner together, um, nobody is really looking to read your resume, right? So don't say. I'm a marketing strategist. Say, I can help you grow your brand. Don't say, I'm a UGC creator. Say, I can help you create content that will be impactful and help you get clients, things like that. The other thing is that there's a couple of cool features on there that you could really leverage. And the two that come to mind is endorsements and recommendations. I know recommendations, you can get them other places too. I think uh, Google. If you go on Google, you can get reviews and things like that. But these endorsements and recommendations, I think people aren't really using them or leveraging them the way that in the best way possible. There's a ton of people out there that know what you do. That are on LinkedIn, and I bet you that if you go in there and you go, "Hey, I'm going to give you an endorsement on your content creation, or if they're an insurance person, on how you set me up for a term life insurance or whatever it might be, and be like, hey, I would appreciate one back. If you can, if you think that these services that I provided to you added value to you, and I think that that really makes your LinkedIn profile stand out. Uh, LinkedIn is all about networking. It isn't necessarily about selling, right? I think that that's maybe the end point that we're thinking about, but it's almost like a side effect of creating all these meaningful connections. If you put very little effort into saying how you can add value to people, and then be genuine on there, and talk about, hey, um, I like your profile picture. I think that this post that you did was really, really great because of X, Y, and Z. Not because you want to kind of puff them up, but because that's something that really resonated with you. I think that those connections are out there to be made, and I think that LinkedIn is one of those places that you're going to get the best bang for your buck. I look at your profile. I looked at Jeremiah's profile. Looked at Daniel Paul's profile, and these are some of the things that they really, really stand out for. I think that if you go in there as a business owner, as a person that wants to increase your income, and really look at the people that are doing it, I think that you're going to get a ton of ideas, a ton of ideas.
Well, I think that's a point that we should really focus in on is, it's not just about posting content, post it and ghost it and walk away and only respond to people that are commenting on your particular post, but taking the time, like Danny's explaining, to go into other people's feeds, drop them a comment, drop them a like. And it's not even about ego massaging them. It's just really trying to kind of be collaborative, right? Create your audience, create people that you want to associate with that are in the similar space, and you'll be rewarded for that, because by doing so, your followers are going to see that. For example, the reason I even found out about this guy, Matt Lakajev, is because of Daniel Paul. He had commented on Matt's post. And I was like, let me check out who this guy is. And I was totally blown away watching a YouTube video by Matt in which he talks about a rundown of his most successful clients and Daniel Paul being one of them, right? So that's really the benefit of taking, that's not a me first attitude, but giving value back, just commenting, giving your insights, saying, oh wow, it's a very insightful article you shared, or great photo, great video, etc. A lot of lessons learned there. I need to do more of that, right? So it's not just about creating your own content, but really viewing content of others and commenting and sharing and liking and so forth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I encourage everybody out there to leverage your LinkedIn account as much as possible. Treat it like social media, right? How many times are people out there posting on TikTok, posting on Facebook, and really your return on investment on those posts is limited. Is limited. I think that if you leverage that on LinkedIn, you're going to get um, uh, a bigger network, and a bigger net worth as well.
Absolutely, Danny. So I think we could probably start wrapping up today's show. We've got maybe a little extended, but I think it was a very good overview of LinkedIn for our listeners. Any closing thoughts?
Just that. If people out there want to increase their income, if people out there want to, um, uh, really increase their brand, whether it be personal or for their business, I think LinkedIn is a great way to do it. And if you don't know how to get started, if you're hitting roadblocks, Antonio and I have a ton of experience. Get a hold of us. Get a hold of us, and let's collaborate. Let's collaborate. But let's network. Let's network. I encourage you to reach out, and yeah, yeah, we'll connect.
Great. Well, another episode in the books, Danny. Episode 2. Looking forward to episode 3 already. So stay tuned. You can find us across social media as the Digital Pathfinders, and we'll be seeing you in the next episode.
Yeah, we'll see you in the next episode.